Chelsea played Tottenham this week. Match day 10, Chelsea versus Tottenham was the marquee matchup of the week. They drew 0-0. Whoever won this game would have gone top of the table, but unfortunately they drew to a 0-0 draw, and Tottenham keep their top place in the Premier League. I think by goal differential, they have a better goal differential than Liverpool, so they keep the top of the table. It was supposed to be the game of the week, but it was rather underwhelming. There wasn't too many chances. There wasn't too much excitement. Tottenham kind of sat back and invited Chelsea, and Chelsea could not pick them apart. Mourinho, after the game, had a quote that resonated with me. He said, because they played in Chelsea, they played at Chelsea's home field, and he said, "A draw here normally is a positive result. To stay on top of the league is also a positive thing, and my dressing room is unhappy." And then he said, "It's a complete change of mentality. It's a complete change of personality." And I think Mourinho has brought that to Tottenham. Basically saying, we drew at a tough place. We went to Chelsea and we came away with a tie. And that's always good when you go to a opponent like Chelsea and you don't lose. And they drew and they were able to keep their top of the table position. So they should be happy. And he said that they're not happy. So I think Mourinho has brought that mentality, that personality to the team, or they're not just happy with the draw. They're not just happy being top of the table. They want to win every game. They carry themselves as a team that should win every game. And I think Mourinho has brought that to Tottenham. I think before him, Tottenham kind of always felt as they were the smaller team. That like just getting any result or being top four or being even close to top four was acceptable or was a good thing. Now with Mourinho there, they have bigger goals. They're fighting for bigger goals. They have bigger ambitions. I think it's good for them. I think Mourinho is that guy. He brings that toughness to any locker room that he comes to. He always has grit, and he's always not afraid to stand up for his players in the media. And then he called them ponies. He said they asked him if they were a contender for the title, and he said that they're not even a horse, that they're a pony. I think that's just Mourinho playing the media, being smart about how he carries himself, not putting too much pressure on his team. I think he likes being the underdog. He likes having his team compete as underdogs, but then he does bring like expectations to them. So he carries his team as underdogs because he knows that it ignites them and it gives them an edge. And then he's not complacent with ties and just being top of the table. He wants more and more for his team. So good for Tottenham. They have back-to-back clean sheets against City and Chelsea. That's impressive no matter what team you are. If you're able to shut out Chelsea and City on back-to-back weeks with the type of players they have, with Chelsea breaking records on the signings they had this year, bringing Werner, what's his name? Having all these players that they have at their disposal and keeping a shutout against them. And then City, we all know how City spends. Sterling, De Bruyne, impressive roster they have to keep clean sheets against those teams. Vintage Mourinho. People say he parks the bus, but I think his tactics are usually always on point. As far as Chelsea, Tammy Abraham did have a couple of chances that he could have done better. They were for the most part shut down by Tottenham, but they did have some chances. I think Abraham could have put one or two away, but in typical Abraham fashion, he didn't finish those attempts. I think Tammy Abraham is not Chelsea quality in my opinion. He's built like a freaking goddess. He has a great physique. He's fast. He looks like the prototypical 9 that you want, modern 9 that you want, but he's not that good at finishing. He's a little clumsy with the ball in his foot. I don't know. Well, hopefully he's still young, so he could get better, but I don't think he's the solution for Chelsea at the number 9. And at Werner, I mean, you could put both of them together, or you could put Werner on the side. But I think Tammy Abraham should be like slowly weeded off the starting lineup or getting minutes, in my opinion. But Mendy has been a great signing for Chelsea. He made a couple saves against Tottenham, but there was a couple plays that like resonated with me. There was a couple crosses that I think Kepa would have let like cross across his goal, and he would have like defended the shot. where Mendy cuts the cross before it gets through, and he like deflects it over. Small stuff like that Mendy does just brings a lot of safety or like a lot of calmness to that defense. And they've had more clean sheets with him at the goal than they ever did with Kepa. And there were a lot of saves that Kepa could have done that he never did, if that makes any sense. Like, he conceded the goal, and it's not really Kepa's fault, but you would expect more from Kepa. Or like if you were an elite keeper, that's something that like an elite keeper could have stopped. You can't really fault the keeper for not stopping it, but you kind of like want more from him. It's like, okay, like if you would have had a little better positioning, if you would have reacted a little quicker, you could have gotten to that. Like, I'm not going to blame you, but I wish we had somebody that could save that, if that makes sense. And that's what Mendy has been for Chelsea. He's getting to those saves that Kepa couldn't get to. And I think that's good for Chelsea, and it's good for their title chances. And if they could get their offense going, and if they could get Pulisic back, they're going to have a real chance to make some noise this season. And overall, I think Chelsea was pretty satisfied getting a tie. They're third in the table, 10 games in. I think they're like 1 point behind top of the league. So I think it's a good result for Chelsea. They're 2 points behind. They're 2 points behind the leaders, and I think they should be happy. It's going to be good for them. They're still within striking reach. Their defense has looked better. They're getting clean sheets now. Mendy has been good for them on goal. And I think their offense is going to come as the season progresses. So good for Chelsea, good for Tottenham. Lackluster game overall. Disappointed. Wasn't the matchup that most people wanted to see, or the results, the display, the entertainment that most people wanted to see. But it was still a decent game. Chelsea 0, Tottenham 0. Chelsea plays Leeds United next. That's going to be a fun game. Leeds always goes forward, sometimes to their fault, but it's going to be a good game. Tottenham versus Arsenal this week, the North London derby. Arsenal is struggling. Tottenham is doing great. So we'll see how that plays out. Tottenham versus Arsenal this next weekend. That's probably going to be one of the marquee matchups of this match day 11 for the Premier League.